There we are, all hands on deck. I believe our next action item is report from closed session, Madam Clerk.
Yes, so we're reporting out at 10:17 a.m. that council received a report on employee benefits from our insurance provider and provided staff direction regarding personnel matters about identifiable individuals.
Mover and seconder. Moved by Talia, seconded by Rowe. All in favor? That is carried. Next action, any other additional action items? Okay. Certainly for our regular council meeting, disclosure in pecuniary interest. Certainly welcome to those individuals that are joining for this virtual council meeting. Our first item up is delegations. 10 o'clock requests for nature school. Good morning, Michelle.
Good morning. Thank you everyone for allowing me a little time in the meeting today to have me discuss this with you. So I have a goal to open up a outdoor forest and nature school in the Rodney area. I've been doing a little bit of training and research. I've just finished the first term of the early childhood education at Algonquin College. I'm taking training with the Guelph Outdoor School, a year program with to teach the children and also to teach adults. And part of the program is really connecting back into nature, huge naturalist style learning, but also tying in with the Indigenous learnings, what they did in the old days and what our ancestors did in the old days. So I'm doing training with that side too. So it includes tracking and bird language, and a little bit about the bird languages. They will call and warn you when animals and people are coming. So it's really cool to get to know this in the different bird languages. And you know, I've been doing this sit spot in nature. And they'll do the bird calls and you know them, and then you'll see somebody come walking by like 2 minutes later. So it's really cool, some of the stuff that they do. There's been studies done that when children or people spend time in nature repetitively and learning to care for that place, as adults, they will come back to that place and care for it. This is the one of the big things of why I wanted to do this. Another thing too is today's children are spending a ton of time in front of the TV, in front of the computer. Not like when we were kids. Like when we were kids, you know, with my mom, she used to send me out the door and like come back when the street lights come on, and I could go anywhere I want. A lot of the parents today are keeping very close ties with the children. They don't get a lot of the free playtime that they did when we were younger. So this ties in with that. So basically going with a bit of the PowerPoint, my goal is to help children and adults nurture healthy relationships with nature through play. So the biggest part, one of the biggest parts that I love about this program, it's learning through play. So it's fun, like they don't even know they're learning about nature. It's all tied in with games and projects that they'll be learning without even realizing that they're learning. So and yeah, the skill set they're going to learn is going to last a lifetime. God forbid that they'll ever have to use some of these survival skills, but I often wonder what it's going to be like for the children when they get to be adults. I think the world's going to be very different from how we are today. You know, the population's supposed to double. There's going to be a lot of food and water shortages in the future, and who knows what's going to happen with this climate change and anything else that could happen. I think the survival skills part of it is going to be huge benefit to them, and if not them, then their children for sure. You know, what I can teach them, and they can pass on to their children. So it's all about, you know, reconnecting with the natural world. So teaching survival, ancestral skills. So our ancestors knew all this stuff. And, you know, the grandmothers and grandfathers, they didn't pass all this knowledge down to us. So, you know, a lot of this knowledge is getting lost, what our ancestors used to do. And I'm looking to find that in the, these teachings are strong in the Indigenous side, that they pass down. So they're really helping me understand, you know, some of the old ways. So as part of the early childhood education too, the studies that I did for my papers, this is really big over in Europe. And studies have proven that when the children spend time in nature, they, you know, will go back as adults to care for it. But what they didn't have was the environmental side. And with the climate change and everything that's going wrong with our planet right now, they're saying that's affecting these learnings, that the children are saying, you know, it's so bad out there. What could I possibly do to make a difference? Why bother? And some of them are saying, well, it's not even affecting me. It's like somewhere else in the world. And I think some adults are taking that too. So they said in order for this to be effective, that I need to be showing the children what the people in our community are doing and making a difference, and what they can do individually to make a difference, and show them how that works. So I'm including that environmental part into the program too. So right now what I have is I just finished the Canadian Wildlife Federation course on activities for children to do, to learn some of this. But I want to include community members to, you know, see what people are doing in our community for our wildlife, local wildlife, and environment, to protect it and make a difference. So that last page is just where I got some of the information from. So some of the core routines and part of the program that I offer, there's 13 core routines listed to go experience the world. It really shows that a lot of people don't realize there's a lot of wildlife in our own backyard, but we don't see it. So I want to teach the children, I want to show the children how to look for it and see it. So part of that's a sit spot in nature, where they spend time doing journaling and just about half an hour and just noticing what they see and the changes throughout the season. Thanksgiving is an important part of it, to be thankful for all that we have and all that's out there. I work on expanding our senses. So, you know, when people are in front of the computer, they're just, and TV, they're using 2 of their senses. When you're outside, you're using all of your senses. So, you know, you're feeling the wind blowing. You're getting the different colors of all the nature. And there's energies out there too. So when the birds are alarmed, there's a different energy from when, you know, everything's just eating, you know, the little animals are eating peacefully. And there's touch and feel that we're not using when we're inside learning. They say that the tracking is important of the animals, because when you learn to track, it actually shows you what animals are out in your area and what they're doing. So a lot of going through the trails and looking for that. The survival living I touched on. There's always a story of the day in to inspire the kids, to get them excited about this. And then there's I use the art of questioning. So an example of this would be like, you know, the kids come and say, ooh, there's a worm. And I would be like, well, which way do you think it's going in? Does it have eyes? And is it going in with this, moving with its head or its back? Can you tell the difference? So it's using like all these questions in nature to get kids excited about it and want to learn more. Use a lot of the field guides to help children know the animals and the tracking and the plants. Big part of this too is the the plants in nature that are medicine plants and plants to eat while foraging. And there'll even be some medicine making in there too. So I've recently took a course with Christine Dennis, and I will be again this summer for a plant consciousness program. And I was able to go out there and actually make medicines for my family that's made a difference. Even offered some, was able to make some COVID protection to bring the immune system up. So just a little bit I learned last year, it's made a huge difference in my life, and I want to share this with the children. Part of the Indigenous side that I like is the they base their values, and I don't want to impose any sort of religion on anybody, but I just really like these values. Daisy, it's the teaching of the seven grandfathers. And so it's wisdom, truth, humility, love, bravery, respect, and honesty. So I'd like to make those the foundation of the course also, and have the kids inspired to incorporate all of those into their lives. I have some books that they have little activities and stories, and then they tie in with nature activities, so it all ties in. On the end page, if you want to check out later, it's just a little bit more on what are forests and nature schools, and some of the people that I'm working with to expand my education, and also a little bit about the programs. So what I'm hoping to do is open this up in Joe's Bush. I was thinking about maybe doing a summer camp over the winter, and then a school in September, where it would like kids would come like 1 day a week for 13 weeks. So it would the school part would really focus on the homeschoolers, but anybody would be welcome to come. What I would require permission for from Joe's Bush is to have a site for a campfire. A lot of these teachings are around the fire, and the bushcraft skills are around the fire too. I'd like to put up a canvas winter tent that would have an outdoor wood stove for when weather's bad, we could go in. I'd like permission to, Daisy, I'd like permission to have the use of any fallen wood branches or trees for to build bushcraft survival shelters. I'd like, as part of the environmental protection, to be able to build little animal shelters like snags and branch piles, a part of the edges of the woods, so that they have shelter to go into in the winter time. Maybe a future thing would be some permaculture gardening in there for the kids. It's forest gardening. I'd also use some logs to seat around the campfire. I'd like permission to erect some birdhouses and feeders, or maybe some houses and shelters for owls, bats, and squirrels. I'd like to put up some temporary tarps that for shelters, canvas tarps, maybe 2. I'd like permission to plant some native trees, plants and shrubs that are native to the area. I'd like to one day have a archery practice. I had to look into this for insurance side, and they said, as long as you use dull edge bows, that would probably be okay. And the other thing too is through speaking with the insurance companies, they said most people, what they do when they do something like that is include a secondary on the policy. So it would be myself insured, plus the township, plus Joe's Bush, if anything accident was ever to happen. I'm getting quotes on, haven't heard back, was supposed to hear back before now, but haven't heard back yet. And so I've sent in a quote for a 2 million liability. So just let you know, so I have my vulnerable police check to be working with the kids. Any employee will have their vulnerable police check. I have my first aid. They will have their first aid. I'm also going to be taking the wilderness first aid too, as a protection. And this training of mine is not going to be finished in a year. This is a lifelong learning that I'll be going through. So every year I'll be getting stronger with this. So on that, any questions from anybody?
Okay, well, Richard, you were first up. Questions?
Yeah, I have a question. I am a nature person myself and always have been. It's very near to and dear to my heart. But anyway, the activity in the woods, is it going to change the wildlife in Joe's Bush? I mean, at the moment, people do walk through there periodically, but 90% of the time it's quiet. If we're going to have so many activities in Joe's Bush, is it going to change it? And really, what was Joe's Bush left for the community? And I would just like to know, with all the activity, are you going to see the wild animals that are there now, or are you going to push them away?
Now, I don't have the answer to about the pushing the wildlife away. I know that I can have an impact on the place where we have the home base camp. I'm looking to have 12 kids. I don't want to make this a big thing. 2 people, 6 kids each. So one way that we could protect the environment is that have a rotating area that we work on. So we're not damaging one area with a lot of trampling and stuff like that. So, you know, maybe have the home base site in one location one year and then move it to another location in the woods the other year. Maybe have about 4 spots where we could possibly have the home base with the fire. That way, and have a rotation over 4 years where, you know, one year the camp's at one place, the next year it's the next place, and then it would come back again there 4 years, and that would give it it time for everything to grow back from the foots, you stepping on the ground and stuff like that. I don't know if 12 kids would really have an impact for the environment. I know one of the Indigenous teachers that I follow, they took a nature area and they're bringing it back. So they've planted grasses from out west and plants and shrubs that attract that the little animals and birds can eat, and planting the indigenous trees and bushes, and it's actually brought wildlife to the area. And plus to giving them the little shelters, like making the shelters for them for the wintertime, the little snags and the bush piles has brought wildlife to the area. I think even having the feeders, I mostly want the feeders so that when the kids are there, it'll attract the birds to the area, which would be nice for the people walking through too. But having the homes up for the nest too, I think that's going to attract the animals. It's because it's going to, you know, give them a place of protection.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we're gonna go with Angela first.
I think Councillor Talia hit her hand up first.
Okay, I didn't see who was first, but Teresa, go ahead.
No problem. Thanks for that. Through the chair. Thank you, Michelle, for joining us this morning and coming as a delegation with your wonderful idea. I love this idea. I myself am a volunteer with Girl Guides and do know what you're talking about the children really connecting and wanting to be in nature. They don't sometimes resist it, but once they're out there, they really thrive and love it. Maybe not the washroom issues. That's about all they don't like. That was one of my questions about washrooms and any garbage. How would that be handled? Were your ideas? And then a question for Lee and Magda, maybe if we could have like a more detailed explanation if this is even a go about insurance and the cost of having it at Joe's Bush. I'm a little worried about the fire aspect. And lastly, parking for pickup and drop off. I know myself in the spring and fall, the sides of the road kind of wash out a little bit and then they get built up by wonderful road guys. So I'm wondering about the parking, because there's only about 3 spots there, and then everyone's on the side of the road and kind of in the ditches a bit. So those were my questions. The parking, the washrooms, and the garbage, how that would be handled, because the little ones don't usually able to wait. So I do know that Tiny Tots has activities in the past out there. I have 3 teenagers, so they've done half-day programs periodically out there with picnics and such, but obviously there wasn't fire or anything like that involved. But thank you for your time. It's really interesting.
Okay, so toilet, and I forgot to have this in the program. I would probably have a Johnny on the spot locked. So I would need permission for that. And the reason why, well, locked for one, when the if I wasn't there, and 2, if for COVID reasons, I'd have to unlock it and clean it after everybody used it when the kids were there. And then, but if we're out on the trail and somebody's got to go, there is protocols, and probably I'll get it from the Boy Scouts manual on the proper, way to like if they had to have a poop in the forest, they'd have to bury it. But I would be, recommending everybody use the Johnny on the spot, unless it was like an emergency. The garbage. Oh, so that's one that I didn't think about. So, yeah, could I maybe, if I had a steel, could I not just put it out for garbage pickup at the end of the road when the garbage comes? And have it in in a container where no animals could get it. I will have kids bring their lunch. I don't want to have a lot of non-natural stuff there for crafts. I want to do all natural crafts. So I guess we'd have to look into that and maybe talk a little bit further about the garbage. And as far as parking goes, well, it would just be dropping off the kids and picking up the kids. And yeah, so the impact on the shoulder of the road is going to have some impact, and that's out of my control there.
Okay, Angela?
Thank you for the presentation. So I am familiar with another service called Timber Nook that supports in the area that is somewhat similar. They are in a bit of a larger area and have more parking that's easier for parent drop off and pick up. They don't do fires or anything like that, which is actually a question that I have for Chief MacArthur in regards to allowing fires in tents and allowing fires within Joe's Bush, but being with the fact that there is so much dead brush around in Joe's Bush, I would definitely want to report back from staff on that allowance. The other report that I would be looking for staff, I guess, would be from Mr. Gosnell, is there is a lot of low hanging trees and dead wood that can become dangerous. So I guess whose responsibility would that be to walk the bush every day before the program would be to run, clean up the dead and dangerous limbs? I wouldn't want to put a burden further back on taxpayers that to look after maintaining the bush because we've decided to allow a school to come into it. So that would be something that I guess staff would have to sort that out as to who would be financially responsible for that. Councillor Tellier's brought up my concerns over the garbage. I don't believe there's direct garbage pickup that goes to that because it's not a rural address. That's something I would want, and obviously to make sure that we are protecting our rural roads because they're, I don't believe, designed for that kind of traffic. So that's a question that I would want to report back from staff on as well for handling that. So it sounds like you're wanting to run something fairly similar to Timbernook, but I'm not sure that the in and out traffic would handle Joe's Bush. So I'd want to report back.
Okay, so just to address a couple of things there. The tent is actually made for winter camping out of canvas. And it has an enclosed wood stove in it. So it's treated to be non-flammable material, and it's not an open fire, it's an enclosed wood stove fire. So just so that they're made especially for winter camping. As far as the wood goes, I would be walking through every morning before class to make sure it's safe. I mean, there is we talked about not putting the taxpayers an extra cost. Now there is you do have the public walking through, so it does need to be made safe for the public. Anyways, whether it's there or not. But if there was an area where the home base was, where a tree had fallen overnight, or on another tree that was in danger of falling off where the home base is, I would probably ask permission to look after that just in the immediate area where the camp is. Anywhere else, like if we're doing a trail or anything through the bush, I mean, I would just path. If there was, that's what the walkthrough would be for. There's part of the first aid or the training is to, I would have a fire extinguisher with me, a fire blanket with me. I have first aid for burns in my first aid kit. The fire would be made sure that it was completely out when left unattended. So would never be left unattended on those. Yes, there's a lot of fallen trees. The area where the campfire would have to be, anything burnable would have to be away from the fire.
Okay,
Yeah, so you were saying there was no garbage pickup on that road? Sorry, I didn't get that right.
I don't know.
There is currently garbage pickup on the road, not at that location, and we pay by location.
Okay, so could I take it home with me? Like, I mean, I don't know if that would be an option. I don't think there's gonna be a lot of garbage, but I could take it with me.
Certainly.
Like, I mean, when you're doing the Girls Guides outside and your programs outside with the Girl Guides, is there a lot of, I see I haven't got the program out officially, so I don't know. Is there a lot that you have to deal with at the end of the day?
So with COVID, we're doing everything outside. They're masked and outside. Obviously in these cold months, we've been doing Zoom, but in the spring and fall, they're outside. So whatever we bring in, we take away from whatever location we're at. So
Yep.
if we have used, say, we've used Fingal before, even though they have garbage receptacles there, we still feel it's our responsibility to take it away again. And each
Okay.
child has a litterless lunch.
Oh, perfect. I can get that incorporated in my parent guide. Another thing too, so you're worried about the parking. I am open if there's other areas in the township that you may think is more suitable. Like I did inquire about the trails down by the beach, but I never heard back if that would be acceptable or not. But if there's, I think it would be a really good program for the kids. And it's very different from, so there's a difference in programming. There is a forest school style program. And there's this Coyote style program. The Coyote style is very different from the forest school teachings, and I can send some further information on that. So what I will be doing is going to be very different from what the ladies doing in Port Stanley, Timbernook.
Bonnie, you were next up.
Thank you, Michelle. There's some really great ideas, and I don't disagree with you that young people are losing some of the skills that some of us older people have acquired over the years. This is a really good starting conversation, but there's obviously lots of things to be discussed. I'm thinking about things like what would we rent for the space, as we charge rent for the use of all of our facilities. Would other people be able to access and use the trails at the same time as the school?
Oh, for sure, they would, yes.
And obviously, we would want to talk to our insurer and potentially our lawyer as far as any increased, risks for us. That I noticed in your presentation, you talked about field investigation, and from my understanding, the municipality doesn't own any of the fields around, so you would need to get permission from those owners if you were wanting to use any fields that are.
Oh, it would all be inside Joe's Bush. So the field guides I was talking about, so it's like a book for identification of all the birds, and there's another one for identification of all the plants, so the field guides.
Oh, I thought you were referring to.
I'm glad you brought it up.
Okay. And the other suggestion I would have would be to consider maybe a soft or slow start to see what kinds of issues might come before, before we sort of make a decision about a full programming, just to see what impacts it might have on our park. And
So maybe
forth.
just permission for the summer camp and then see how that goes and then go from there.
Well, I that's up for discussion, but even, one program or, a couple of programs or something like that might be something that you want to consider. Those are just my thoughts.
Thank you.
Okay, Michelle. I guess first off, this is a very fascinating program, and I've got a bit of personal experience with it. My grandson is involved in a nature school outside of Elora. It amazes me on a day that the dogs won't go outside. He's got his snow pants on, his boots and hats, and he's ready to go off to school and absolutely loves. It's the best day of his week. Monday is just something that he looks forward to. So I think that the concept behind this is certainly is something that is worth pursuing, and it's not a new concept. I know we talked about fire and whatnot here, and when my grandson comes home from nature school, he smells like he's been in a smoker all day long because they've been tending fires. And I think one of the biggest issues that his mother has got, that he's continually wearing out the knees and his snow pants, crawling around and looking at things. So all in all, I think it's a wonderful concept. But as you've probably noticed to this point in time, that when you want to have a dance with the municipality, the dance can be somewhat complicated.
That's government. It's red tape.
And, we have the duty to protect the public and everything that goes on public lands. And it requires a tremendous amount of more scrutiny, I guess, than if you were able to find someone in the private sector that would provide you with a piece of property that you could use for this purpose. I know that that's the way it is in Elora with their program there. It is on private property, and probably comes with a lot less headaches than trying to deal with the municipality. That being said, have you tried to find willing hosts within the municipality that would entertain something like this? I know we have some large tracts of protected forest that certainly from a naturalist point of view, this would, I think, be something that maybe they might be interested in. Or do you have an ability to find out any private landowners that have would have a willingness to be a host for your program? what has been your result in trying to find alternative sites?
Yeah, I do have someone with a farm that is a early childhood educator that is, I'm gonna enter talks with her next week on doing something there. They have 20 acres of bush. I also have approval from the Big Bend Conservation Area. Once I get the insurance, I have to get the insurance in place by the end of the month. So I, yeah, I'm kind of anxious to hear back from my guy. The only thing with the conservation area is that they don't want you to touch any of the, if I was to do any shelter or crafts, I have to bring everything in. I couldn't use any of the, any materials there, any nature materials there. So, and it is super expensive there.
Certainly,
Yeah, so
certainly, I
that's-
know. You know, if I had an accessible bush, Michelle, and you know, with proper conditions and insurances and whatnot like that, I'd be more than a willing host to do it. But unfortunately, I don't have anything like that. But you know, what is it on Queen Street? Either to Angela or Teresa, there's a huge chunk of protected land there, the Lusty Tract. I don't know who's
Yeah.
in charge of that, and have you spoken to them?
No, and I see there's another one right beside the nature, West Elgin Nature Center. There's some woods there too.
Mhm. I'm just looking for your own peace of mind, Michelle, to do the dance with us. I'll tell you, there's going to be a lot of points and clauses and inspections, and then we open it up to the public scrutiny when it's on our property, and so just something for you to consider. Bonnie, you've had your hand up.
Yeah, I was just going to suggest that Michelle speak with Chris Lays from the West Elgin Nature Club. He's also on the board of the Thames Talbot Land Trust. You know, so I believe they own both of those properties that you were referring to, plus several others. So there
Okay.
are other properties, and there are people very interested in learning more about nature. They would be a great collaborator for your program, and they may have a spot that you could. Sorry.
That's okay.
Oh, stop.
But yeah,
That's all I have to say.
guys.
Now, Janet, can you give Michelle contact for Chris?
I'm just sending her the contact information right now for the Thames Talbot Trust. I can't legally give out Chris's email address because
Oh,
it's.
okay, well, as long as you can.
But I'm just sending her the contact for Lusty's Woods.
I can.
Direction. So I mean, I think that that from my perspective, I'm very intrigued by this. Again, having the personal experience to see how this has certainly been a life-altering experience for my grandson, and he looks at things through a different lens. Even to the point that at 8 or 9 years old, I guess I should really know how old he is. You know, he's looking at you know, potential of being a conservation officer.
Isn't that cool?
Yeah, so it's and he sure knows how to build a fire now. But I don't know how, I think everybody on council here has and staff have a good indication of what you're doing. And I think that certainly this is the beginning of a conversation, and I would just ask staff people to kind of just, you know, jot down some of the things that you might have concerns about, and certainly even from council, if there are things that pop up that you might have concerns about. And in the meantime, certainly if you can see if there's another willing host out there, that would save a whole lot of aggravation on your part, Michelle. And And certainly stay in touch with us. And I think that in general, you have support for your program. I think it's just a matter of ironing out the details.
Certainly. Well, thank
Richard?
you much, everyone, for all your time this morning.
Richard?
And very much,
Yeah.
everybody.
Just before you go, Jenna, would you please send Michelle my telephone number, please?
Will do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I guess from council's perspective, and you're traveling around, if you do find someone that quite possibly might be interested in hosting this, I think if we can give Michelle all the assistance that we can. The other thing, Michelle, have you done a market study to see how many children could be interested in this program?
I advertised on the Facebook homeschool marketplace, and I got about 20 responses back that they were very interested and wanted more information.
Yeah, okay, very good. And have you spoke with the Thames Valley District School Board?
No, that I have not.
I think that's something I know that in Aurora, if you are enrolled in the nature school, that because of that, you're not marked absent in the Wellington County Board.
Oh, cool. Oh,
So
that's
maybe you want to contact the Wellington Board just to see how it works in their jurisdiction, and that will be maybe a precedence for you to bring to the Thames Valley Board.
Thank you so much for sharing. That's awesome.
Okay, anything else that anybody has for our guest? With that, seeing none, thank you, Michelle, and good luck, and we'll see how this moves forward.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you, everyone. Thanks, Duncan. See
Bye-bye.
you later.
Okay, do we have,
Of the adoption of the minutes, sir.
yeah, I gotta get to the right page. Number 7, we have a recommendation that the minutes of the council meeting held on April 8th, 2021 be adopted as circulated and printed. Do I have a mover and seconder for that? Tellier and Cameron, all in favor? And that is carried. Business arising from the minutes. Anybody have anything they wish to discuss? Seeing none, we'll go to staff reports. Jackie, good morning.
Morning, thank you very much. So March, we're still plugging away here with permits a little bit under last year's totals year to date. However, April is catching things up. I think you'll find a difference once I send in the April report for the next council meeting. Our most recent provincial stay-at-home orders did not impact construction in our area very much. It mostly restricted industrial, commercial, and institutional, which we don't have a lot of. Most of the work that we have in our area is residential and agricultural. So it didn't really impact any construction that's ongoing in our area. Does anyone have any questions with regard to the report?
Seeing none. Quite interesting, even with the increase in the price of lumber, that things are still getting built.
Yes, yeah, it doesn't seem to be slowing anybody down, and I would say that we're probably going to be busier this year than even last year.
Okay. All right, well, with that, I have a recommendation of West Island Council hereby receives the report from Jackie, our building inspector for building permit report for March 2021 for information purposes. Mover and seconder for that. Moved by Cameron and seconded by Tellier. All in favor? That's carried. Okay, Brian. Planning pre-application consultation and completeness of planning applications. Okay, good morning.
Good evening, Mayor, members of council. Before you today, I put forward a report to bring some regulation and framework to past practice on what we're doing. in the planning office, so that ensures a transparent and accessible planning process to happen by requiring applicants to pre-consult with the municipality prior to planning application submission. This has the ability to create efficiencies in the process by requiring upfront information. And this is something that was legislated in the Planning Act back in 2006. And there's abilities for municipalities, which most have, to pass bylaws to require pre-application meetings with administration, and then that sets the framework up for what they need to do to submit for an application, as well as outline what's needed to deem an application complete. So I got into a lot of details into the report to bring you background to it, but that is the principles of it, and it helps create that transparency again with the broader public, as well as with the applicant, of what is needed to progress an application forward through the planning approvals process. And again, it becomes more faster and efficient of a process with this required information up front. And yeah, so I've outlined all the details into the staff report. I can answer any questions that council has. I'm recommending that there's a draft bylaw attached to the report, that it be approved. And so we can solidify what we've been doing in past practice.
Okay, questions from council? Bonnie?
Thank you. You mentioned in your report that there was some research done with regard to other municipalities. I wonder if I could have the results of that research. Do the surrounding municipalities have a pre-planning bylaw? And I wondered also at what point council is consulted on a planning application if this bylaw was in place?
Great question, Councillor. Through you, Mayor. So through analysis that I'm aware of, the County of Elgin has a pre-application requirement for county-led applications, which is key, obviously, in a two-tier planning window that we're under for plans of subdivisions, condominiums, and consent applications, where they're the approval authority. Your adjacent municipality to the east, Dutton Dunwich, has pre-application requirements. Southwest Middlesex has pre-application requirements. The County of Middlesex has pre-application requirements. Central Middlesex has pre-application requirements. Chatham-Kent has pre-application requirements. The list goes on of the multitude of municipalities in Ontario that have pre-application bylaws in place. And yeah, so there's a lot of past practice out there, and it's something that we've been going through with applications here, because it just creates efficiencies of the submission with detailed discussions up front to make the planning approvals process that much more quicker. So that said, municipal involvement, municipal council involvement would still occur on planning decisions that are required. There'd be still statutory public meeting requirements under the legislation for certain planning applications. So there'd still be discussion with council and decision-making with council.
Just to interject, Bonnie, you actually won't see any change. You'll see the exact same involvement as you do now. This is already in practice.
Angela?
Thank you for the report. So if I understand, essentially in the past, or at least within the past couple of years, staff have already been doing this. This is just more of a housekeeping measure to make a formal bylaw which would perhaps stop some of the calls that I have been getting in the past year from out of town developers asking me questions like this kind of thing, which then I am referring to the clerk because I can't answer these questions. So this is just more of a housekeeping thing that you've brought forward to us, if I'm understanding it correct. Is that how I've got it?
Yeah, so this formalizes the past practice through bylaw regulation so that we can, if push comes to shove, we could enforce somebody obviously to pre-consult before they submit an application and deem it complete. So, if they partially submit a form that doesn't have the required information, doesn't have the required plans or studies that we need to analyze natural heritage on the property, for instance, we could require an environmental impact study for them to analyze that and have that information up front with their submission so that administration, the public, and the applicant, everyone is aware of the transparency of the documentation provided for the transparency of the planning process.
So what you're telling me, Brian, is that our planning is not transparent right now?
This aids to the transparency that's already been in past practice by requiring a bylaw to require an applicant to pre-consult with us. Because a lot of, and I've received tons of calls already on inquiries that will further mature into a planning application as it goes. So a lot of the development community is well aware of this process to have preliminary conversations with planning staff that further matures into detailed pre-consultation matters so that they know what they have to do to submit an application for it to be heard.
Okay. And currently they can't get that information contacting the planning department to have an understanding of what they will have to supply to West Elgin to proceed with an application, or an application for an application. Sometimes it kind of confuses me a little bit.
Sorry, I'm not following on that,
Well,
that question.
I'm just going, are we adding another layer in the process, or
We're formalizing a layer, sir. All we're doing is formalizing that what we're already doing.
so is there going to be a charge for a pre-application application?
So I analyzed that in the report under the financial considerations, or implications. So we charge a Planning Act fee for planning applications currently for the actual planning application. There are abilities for the municipality should they wish to charge a separate fee for pre-consultation. And that's the reason if, you spend time to pre-consult with some parties and it doesn't materialize in a planning application fee, there would be some lost staff time, obviously, in that. But currently, based on the fees and charges bylaw, there's no pre-consultation fee. It happens right now anyways, and I provide information and advice and guidance to proponents going through planning applications, and then they'd require a fee when they submit their application.
Bonnie?
Just looking at the list of applicants that would be required to pre-plan, official plan amendment, zoning bylaw, and so on. So I just wondered how many over the course of the last few years has West Elgin received any of these applications without having talked to the planner first?
I can't give you too much on the past practice, but I think a lot of people are engaged to consult. I have one party that I've been working with on a consent application that we've went through some revisions to his application to help aid him in submitting it to the county for consent approval processes. So, it's pretty standard process that most people are aware of. This just formalizes it through bylaw and to require it. And that will help the municipality, obviously, in creating efficiencies and being able to reference a bylaw to say that, you got to pre-consult with us before you submit. And that saves efficiencies through the approvals process.
Brian's also proposing laying all this out on the website, what should be ready when they come to us. It to help save everybody time. So when you're coming to the municipality with things like for an application, that people are ready with all of the stuff they need. It helps them pre-plan before they come to. I believe that's kind of the idea, correct, Brian?
Correct. So this deals with the least complex applications to major development applications, and scale and the requirements of what would be required to deem an application complete is obviously a night and day difference depending on the scope of the project. So yeah.
So in this pre-planning, when you're asking for the proponent to come forward with all the requirements, are we adding any new requirements to that list that have not been required in the past?
No new requirements whatsoever. Depending on the nature and scope of a development proposal, requires certain studies and analysis to be considered with planning policies. So nothing new that way.
Okay, well, I see the archaeological component in the report there. Has that not previously been a request from the provincial government or some other agency when they require that? And it's not been something that the municipality has weighed into in any depth?
So actually, the planning authority needs to have the required information up front. Thankfully, I guess the provincial government has down delegated the authorities on reviewing some of the studies and analysis to the municipalities. On your archaeological assessment situation, of course, the Ministry of Tourism and Culture and Sport is still involved through a heritage registrar process where they have to deposit the archaeological assessment and get a clearance letter through the ministry prior to proceeding forward. And development applications are pretty standard when looking at developing on raw land that meets the litmus test of doing an archaeological assessment in accordance with the provincial guidelines that are provided. So.
Okay, so from West Elgin's practices, what's going to change? You're saying nothing?
Nothing.
Okay, Bonnie, do you have a question?
No.
Any other questions from anybody? Are you comfortable with this recommendation and a bylaw that's prepared to deal with it today? You want more time to kind of assess it? So what are your feelings? If you're ready, I will read the recommendation. And the recommendation is West Elgin Council hereby receives the report from Brian Pierce, planner, regarding planning application consultation and completeness of planning applications, and that West Elgin Council approves a bylaw for planning pre-application consultants and delegation of authority to completeness of planning applications in accordance with Appendix 1 of this report. You've heard the recommendation. Do we have a mover and seconder for that? Let's move by Cameron. And seconded by Leatham. All in favor? And that has carried. Okay. Next item up is fire recommendation of West Elgin. Well, why don't we have the report from Jeff before we read the recommendation?
Thank you, Your Worship, and good morning to Council. You'll see my report for the month of March in front of you. I will add a couple quick notes. Our bunker gear delivery, it's not mentioned on the report, but our bunker gear delivery that was ordered last fall is expected any day. They pushed it back a couple times, I think due to COVID, but we do anticipate getting it any day now, hopefully. And then we anticipate having as we, I think, discussed last fall through a report, can probably put together some older gear for donation purposes. So hopefully we can get that done the next couple weeks. And also do want to acknowledge, obviously, sadly, we had a fatal fire back in the month of March in West Lauren here, but do want to acknowledge the great job the crews did. They arrived to a fully involved apartment room and were able to contain that fire damage to the fire damage specifically, basically to that one room, which is impressive given the age and the size of the building. So just wanted to mention that as well, but nothing else to add. So I don't know if there's any questions.
Questions from anyone? Bonnie? Oh, got everybody got their hand up.
With
Go ahead.
regard to the fatal fire that you referenced just now, I wondered if there were any recommendations from yourself or from the fire marshal with regard to the response there.
Sure, there's been nothing formal at this time. So the OFM was contacted quite early on in that call or mid-morning, I'll say. I don't have the time in front of me, but so then at that point the investigation gets turned over to the OFM, and obviously they attended I believe later that late afternoon or mid-afternoon, and of course a couple days following. So there's been nothing official from the fire department as of yet, or sorry, from the office of the fire marshal as of yet. But in regards to general operations, I mean, the fire department, the firefighters completed those tasks as needed and did a great job that day.
Angela?
Good morning, Jeff. Thank you for the report and acknowledging the fire. I noticed there's been a substantial amount of grass fires recently within West Elgin. And as we know, multiple callouts can be a substantial financial burden to our residents. Do you have a recommendation on how to handle this? Are any of those multiple grass fires frequent flyers where they're occurring? Obviously, we can't identify that in this particular meeting, but is there something that maybe we can do? I know we did a quick blurb on social media, but we know not everybody's on social media. I know there was one particular, I'm not sure if it was a Saturday or Sunday, I can't remember, where they had 3 or 2 on the same day. How can we, work to decrease this in the future, that grass fires don't become our #1 fire complaints in our concern in West Elgin? So.
Sure, yeah, and I appreciate the question. And yes, it was, I would say, an abnormally high or busy month for grass fires, and that was the general trend across the county as well. Partly just the drier spring, and I think it all kind of ties in with their burn permit process and the burning bylaws, and I don't have the addresses in front of me. If I recall correctly, I don't believe there was any frequent flyers per se in those ones, and I believe some of them are even properly permitted fires that the wind conditions changed or things got out of hand. So we did, as you notice, we did do a quick social media post on it, which you're right doesn't address anybody, but it's definitely a seasonal issue. So it's something we can, hopefully we don't get into a dry summer again like we have other years, but it's something we'll have to monitor, I guess, closely again if we do get into that in this summer.
Okay, thank you.
Bonnie, another question?
Yeah, I did. I was wondering how many burn permits might have been issued and whether maybe, it seems like there's a lot of fence row fires and property cleanup fires and things like that. And is it more than usual? And is that a statistic we could maybe have each month?
Sure, yeah, that's something that, yeah, I apologize, I don't have that in front of me, but for sure, going forward, that's something we can, and we are, as we talked about for a few months now, we are very close to changing the burn permit process just in regards to the office, because I know the office, the admin, or the office staff spends quite a bit of time now on administrative work to issue permits. So we're hoping to streamline that a little bit here quite soon, but and actually that will kind of help in regards to myself, in regards to keeping track of permit numbers. So that's something, yeah, for sure. If council would like that included going forward, we can keep tabs on that.
That'd be great, thank you.
Did you have a question, Tressa? At one time I seen your hand up.
Sir, I can tell you, we issued 43 burn permits the month of March.
Okay.
Oh,
Or we had 43 applications. I'm not sure every single one was approved, but we had 43 applications.
Yeah, well, it's, I think as Bonnie said, a lot of people are cleaning up and, you know, you can't go very far, so you might as well go to work.
Yeah, I'm just curious as to whether they all had permits, I guess is the thing.
That's a good question. I would, and again, just a quick answer, the 43 is, it was obviously a busy month for burn permits, but that's, I would take that as a good sign for compliance, general compliance for acquiring burn permits. So.
And I think the other thing we want to be cautious of too, even if someone has obtained a burn permit and circumstances have got to the point that the fire has got out of control, we do not want to discourage them from calling the fire department, because a little fire can turn into something quite nasty if it's not contained quickly. Teresa, did you have a question there a while ago?
No, I just put it in the chat. The hydro has just come to my house and said they're going to have my transformer area go down for a bit. So you're going to lose me.
Tressa, would you like to go to the office? Like us, we can take a break and send you to the office.
They claim it's only going to be 5 minutes, but we've all been down the road where we were told 5 minutes and it's 2 hours. So he was lovely, but he just came to the door and told my husband. So I just wanted to let you know. So if you lose me, that's why.
All right. Join us when you can. Okay, anything else for Jeff on his fire report? Okay, with that, I have a recommendation that West Don Council hereby receives the report from Jeff McCarthy, Fire Chief, for March monthly fire report for information purposes. Mover and seconder for that report. Richard and Bonnie, all in favor? And that is carried. Surplus exercise equipment. I got some of that too.
Thanks again, Your Worship and Council. So yeah, this is, you'll see this report in front of you as well. And there, kind of the quick backstory that's outlined there is there's been various pieces of exercise equipment at Station 2 in West Lorne, and as I understand it, most of it all belong to individual firefighters, and the majority of it has been moved out already. And there was one piece, I believe the invoice should be attached there in the package, that was purchased by the municipality, I think, yeah, 2016 or so. So again, the agreement among the station was that it's no longer needed, and there is some interest with some of the firefighters there to purchase it for their own obviously well-being, which also benefits the fire department and the municipality. So just want to make sure we're going through the proper channels in regards to this, and if council is willing to declare it surplus and approve selling it to within the fire department.
What's the policy on this, Magda?
Well, the policy, first, it has to be declared surplus. It is municipal equipment. And then I'm not sure if we can limit it to just the fire department. I think we have to open it to all municipal employees if that's the case.
Is it something that we have to open it to the public also?
I'm gonna have to check into that. I'm not sure. I can't answer that. I'm gonna have to look into that.
Would it be safe for the purpose of this meeting here to keep things moving on, that council does declare it surplus pending the policy for disposal? And then between you and Chief MacArthur, you'll be able to sort that out. That satisfactory to
I've
everyone?
got the purchasing policy up, so the part that does speak to the disposal of assets. They can dispose of them. The following process shall be used to dispose of obsolete or damaged surplus equipment. It must be declared surplus, where obsolete, damaged, or surplus equipment is offered but not required by any municipal department. It shall be disposed of by an advertisement for public tender and sold to the highest bidder.
Okay, so it has to be advertised publicly.
There's your process, Jeff. And
It says it may be also sold at a public auction, however, if the CAO deems it necessary. Fire, where equipment has been declared damaged or obsolete or surplus by superintendent, fire department, or CAO and declined by other departments, and it is determined by the treasurer to have little or no value. The equipment is advertised to municipal staff as being for sale and sold to the highest bidder. Sorry, I'm going through all of these. So there's multiple ways in which they can do it. They can be advertised to municipal staff if the treasurer deems it of little or no value.
well, there's from council's perspective, there's lots of policies in there that fall back on staff to make the appropriate decision for the situation. So are we okay with moving on, declaring it surplus and then just directing staff to proceed as per policy?
Yeah.
Okay. That's a little bit different. How do you want to do with that, Madam Clerk?
Do you want, so we can declare it surplus and just delete the approved selling to the highest bidder from the fire department. If you would like to alter that recommendation, we can do that. Or do you just want, it has to be legally declared surplus by a resolution regardless.
Right.
That if you want to then change it to West Elgin Council hereby approves declaring municipally owned cable exercise and clean machine surplus and deems it be disposed as per section 13.5 B IV, which is it could be sold to municipal staff at the highest bidder of the purchasing policy with a minimum bid at 500. We can do it that way.
Well, I'm comfortable with staff setting it up for policy. Lonnie?
Yeah, I was just going to move that we approve the cable exercise machine surplus and approve selling it as per the policy.
Yep.
Staff can
I
decide
agree.
that.
Good. We got a seconder for that?
I'll second that.
Okay, all in favor of that? And that is carried. Okay, Jeff, that it for you today?
Oh, yes, I believe so. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you very much and carry on. Next item up here, Lee, you have your first report, your only report, so you go ahead with that.
Oh, so there was one more report added yesterday for Lee. He has two.
Okay, he has two. And Teresa is back. All right, Lee.
Yeah, good morning, Mr. Mayor and Council. I think the first one is just our March 2021 operations report. So if any of you have had any questions about anything in there, I think it's fairly straightforward.
Any questions? Lonnie?
I was just wondering what was causing the water flushing problem on Green and Line, or whichever one it was.
Carroll Line, that's the west end, the dead end of
Right.
Carroll Line. Because that water line dead ends and doesn't loop around, in order to provide enough flow to keep the water fresh in that line, there's an auto flusher that's been installed, like many other locations in the municipality, right at the end of that line. So that auto flusher kicks on and it runs periodically, more often in the summertime, just to keep water flowing through that line, to keep the chlorine residual up. So right now, the way that auto flusher sits, it just kind of pumps out on top of the ground and it flows where it wants. So there is a plan by staff to put a drain in there and put that auto flusher in, which we've done with a couple others throughout the municipality, just to alleviate, just to make sure that that water is not flowing onto private property.
Okay, thank you.
Any questions, any more questions on Lee's first report? Okay, seeing none, recommendation that West Ogden Council hereby receives the report from Lee Gosling, Manager of Operations and Community Services for information purposes. Mover and seconder for that. Cameron and Tellier, all in favor? That is carried. Hazardous Waste Day.
Yes, through your worship. So Hazardous Waste Day, as council knows, we have been doing this as a joint effort with Dutton Dunwich for the past 10 years, approximately, alternating back and forth, 1 year in Dutton and 1 year in West Elgin. So with the wind up of the municipal hazardous waste program, in past years, the hosting municipality would pay the total bill. We would apply, we would do all the paperwork and apply for the rebates through the government rebates through the program. Once we took those rebates, or once we received those rebates, we would take the balance of what was left owing, and we would divide that between the two municipalities based on the number of vehicles that attended that single day event. So as you can see in the report here, to compare, in 2019, which was a waste day held in West Elgin, our cost after rebates was $8,723. In 2020, we had, that event was held in Dutton Dunwich, so that was $4,941 was our share. This year's budget, it would be back. Was planned to be here in West Elgin. I had 22,000 as an overall budget, and then with rebates and with Dutton's portion, had $7,000 in for a final cost. The province is winding down the program June 30th. We have not heard. It is supposed to be going to a producer responsible system like what they're driving for recycling in the near future. There's been nothing put out to date. We're not even aware that they claim they're still going to make that June 30th deadline, but we have, there's been no direction provided for after that. So at this point right now, if we were to hold the single day event in August the way we always have, there is a very good chance that Dutton Dunwich and West Elgin would be on the hook for the entire 100% cost, because there would be no rebates coming back. So that we would probably be in that $10,000 to $12,000 range at least for our portion of that single day event. So we started looking, based on that, we started looking at alternatives to having this single day event. And one of those alternatives that other communities in Elgin County has taken advantage of are becoming members of the St. Thomas Community Recycling Depot. So the way we've met with staff from St. Thomas. We had a joint meeting with Jan and myself, members of Dutton Dunwich and members of the St. Thomas staff. What they would do for us is because our residents would only be accessing the site for hazardous waste drop off. They've set a cost of $3 per household. And I know in our report here, it did say per resident, but just to clarify, that's $3 per household for the two municipalities. And that would allow our residents to go in anytime throughout the year to their site, which is located on Edgewater in that's just north of the bypass in St. Thomas. And there would be no cost for residents to take hazardous waste into that facility. The municipality would pay that cost up front as that annual membership. So for West Elgin, we're approximately 2,200 households. That would relate to about $6,600 a year would be our administration cost to be a member there. So certainly we wanted to do this as a joint effort with Dutton Dunwich because they've been our partners in this Hazardous Waste Day event for the past decade. And I think that we can all agree, or that we did agree after the meeting with St. Thomas, that both municipalities feel that this is a good option for us to still be able to provide that service to our residents, because we do get phone calls on a regular basis here. Certain different things, you know, we can't accept the landfill. Well, where do we take it? So this would be able, we would be able to provide this address and say, as a West Elgin resident, you're more than welcome to take that material there on these dates each week and drop that off. And that $6,600 would fall within our current 2021 year budget. So we could pay that cost now and stay within budget for the year. So does anyone have any questions?
Questions for Lee on this issue? Bonnie?
Yeah, thanks, Lee. Yeah, it's a bit of a difficult situation when the government hasn't quite kept up with its commitment to help us with this. But in reality, it might just be 1 year that we would do this. Is that your assumption? And there may be some different processes in place once the producers accept responsibility for these items?
I would have my doubts, Councillor Rowe. I think that not knowing what's going to happen after the June 30th date, if anything, it would just push it out. We were hoping that possibly they would extend that June 30th deadline until there was some more concrete answers as to what was happening. But the direction we've received from the ministry at this time is that no, they plan on meeting that June 30th target. They're just not sure how and what that's going to look like. So to your point, I guess, if nothing else, if we offered this service for this year instead of running a local hazardous waste day, if regulations or if that final new program or whatever they decide to do allows for something to be done that makes sense financially and brings it back a little bit closer to home, then certainly we would look at that. There's no, there's no long-term agreement with being a member in St. Thomas. But I think before, when we were receiving those rebates from the government for holding this day, which it works out to be quite a bit on a $20,000 cost, we were receiving about $8,000 in rebates. So financially, it made sense at that time. And even though it was only 1 day a year, it was something that was very local. Residents didn't have to travel far to get there. But now with the loss of that income to balance that out, I think that this even though it's a little bit farther to drive, but on the other hand, it's accessible 52 weeks of the year versus 1 day of the year. So I think that this makes sense at this point right now. And maybe depending on what happens down the road, we can either look at providing something else in the future, or maybe residents will like this ability to be able to go, more often versus having to have that stuff and sit on it and wait for a whole year for a 1 day event.
Further to what Lee
So
said, just the courses Lee and I have taken, or the webinars that we've taken about this transition, we have to find people to accept the waste. So we think it's looking like depots are actually going to be what the government wants, regardless. They want to get away from these 1 day events. Is that not the take you've gotten from those webinars? Because the company that ran our day, they don't have any intention of being a pro. So somebody has to take the time to gather all this information, or gather all the stuff, then sell it to the pros. It's just a lot of complications. So I don't know, like, going this way is probably the best, get them used to it, but we don't know for sure.
So the fee that they're going to charge is per household, whether or not those households actually access the service. Is that correct?
That is correct. So the municipality would pay $3 per household. That's essentially what they base that's just their starting point for a price for us. They had to come up with a price. This is, other municipalities that are closer to this facility access the site for other things such as garbage, tires, steel, those types of things. This program, they're making this program for us specifically for hazardous waste. So that was the number that they came up with when we met with them, was that they felt that $3 per household, based on, we sent them numbers of what we typically take in a year at that 1 day event. So they kind of have an idea of how much product we accept on an annual basis. And from that, they looked at that and said that they felt that $3 per household would cover their expenses. And then moving forward, if we renew from year to year, from this starting point, it would be just an annual, CPI increase each year.
So I have a concern. I mean, from Rodney, which is probably the farthest away that most of the residents are going to be traveling, we're talking, an hour and a half to 2 hours to get it there and back. So I worry about whether people will actually just dispose of it in inappropriate manners. And we're just adding to our issues that are going to the MRF kind of thing, or to the landfill. So I wondered whether there was any thought in us, in staff, being available 1 day, it all put in one truck, and the staff take the truck to the St. Thomas site.
So yeah, to answer that question, Councillor Rowe, we're not able to do that. That's very specialized licensing. The company that comes in and provides that, TerraPure, the company that comes in and provides that hazardous waste day for us, have certifications beyond belief to be able to do that kind of a program. So that's not something, even if it was possible, it's not something I would be comfortable. When you start mixing, you need to really know what you're doing with that kind of stuff, to be able to do it safely and do it properly. So no, it's not an option for municipal staff to be doing that.
And Councillor Rowe, just so you know, we did investigate the closest one to us, which actually would be W12A in London. It's about 11 kilometers closer. However, the way the environmental approvals work from the ministry, each site can only take things from a certain geographic area. And we are only legally allowed to either run a day in our municipality or to take it to this depot. That's all the environmental approvals allow us to do, unfortunately.
Okay.
This is the only option. Because we were concerned about that too, about the fact that it was so far away.
I think that, there might be a few drawbacks with this going to St. Thomas, but I think the one thing is the ability to be able to go at your convenience or the residents' convenience instead of stockpiling hazardous waste on their property for a whole year waiting for a hazardous waste day. I think there's a good trade-off, and this is probably the best solution that we can possibly come up with. And
Also, sir, before I forget, there is one thing that the St. Thomas location takes that TerraPure didn't, which is farm chemicals. Mind you, they only take up to 20 liters.
okay, so you just got to go 20. You got to go every week. All right, well, that's really something good to know. Anybody got any other questions on this? I think this is really pretty straightforward. Will we have an accounting of the people from West Ogden that attend St. Thomas if we go this way?
Yes, the site in St. Thomas does track all the residents coming in, so they can provide us numbers on a monthly or on an annual basis as to how many people are using the service.
And I think we have to stress that there is no cost to the resident to participate in this. So I think that's good. Okay, do I have a report here? Recommendation that West Ogden Council hereby receive the report from Lee Gosnell, Manager Operations Community Service on RE municipal hazardous waste, and that West Ogden Council hereby directs staff to enter into negotiations for an agreement with St. Thomas Community Recycling Center. Mover and seconder for that.
Just before you vote too, just so you know, you guys will see the agreement before it's signed. You will approve it being signed.
Sure. Okay, moved by Cameron, seconded by Leatham, all in favor. And that is carried. All right, so here we are at almost 12 o'clock. We've been at this for a while. How about we have a little break before we go into the election?
Actually, sir, when we come back, we will have somebody under it's matters of urgency. At noon hour, a member of West Ogden Community Health Center would like to speak to us. So if you want to take a break, now's a good time. We can jump back in and speak to her in 10 minutes.
All right. See you in 10 or less.
Make sure you're muted.
When I was trying to unmute myself.
Yeah, you did that. I was getting a little complex about that. Certainly welcome, Kate. No stranger to anybody sitting at the table here. This was something that was brought forward to my attention earlier this week about the potential of what they call a pop-up clinic in West Ogden to administer vaccines to our residents. And it's kind of how many people are involved? It'd be public health, the community health center, and you're asking the municipality for consideration to be involved in this also, Kate. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to turn it over to you, and you can lay out your concept.
Yeah, so I've been working for quite some time now with public health. One of the biggest challenges that they have is vaccine availability. As you may or may not have heard on the news, some vaccines are being diverted to Peel region and regions where there's higher numbers. So they often don't know what vaccines are going to be available. But the concept was, just as we run public influenza clinics, is there a role for us to play in public vaccine clinics? And public health has reached out saying, yes, we would greatly appreciate that. Not sure whether they will come out or not. Originally it was no, we'll get you the supplies and you do it. But the last conversation I had with Susan McIsaac at Public Health was possibility that they may send a staff member out with the vaccines and to help if there's any concerns with the COVAX system, which is the electronic documentation system that has to be used. So what my ask of the West Elgin municipality is this something of interest to the councillors and mayor? And is this something that we should work towards trying to make happen? In the event that it does, when you're doing small numbers, you need fewer people. When you get into larger numbers, and I would hope that they would be able to find at least 250 vaccines in a day for us. But if that's the case, that's a lot of people to navigate. So my thought was I would have the nursing support there to provide the needles. We would need some of our staff to register individuals, make sure their information is in the COVAX system, as that's the guidance for public health we have to follow. And then volunteers could meet them at the door, make sure that they're screened, that they don't have any COVID symptoms before they come in the building, that volunteers could help with cleaning chairs after people sit in them, directing individuals, okay, I'm going to take you over to this nurse now, and we would give training on the day with any volunteers that would be there. If not, we would, volunteers, I get it can be tough, but we would also be looking to our all volunteer pool if any of them are available as well. Probably the next thing is that's an ask is, would we be able to have the use of one of the larger public buildings? I had mentioned to Mayor McPhail, possibly the arena or Rodney as a place to host large numbers, because we don't have the capacity in our building to have people set apart, and if we did it there, we would only be able to do small numbers. So, but again, this is an ask or a discussion with public health. So there's no money that comes with that for us to pay for the use of the buildings. So that's another ask that we would have. The complexity of booking all of this, and I had this discussion with Susan because she said, I probably am not going to know till like the day before I get vaccines that I'm getting them. And I said, we can't turn this around in 24 hours. Individuals have to have a booked appointment, which means for my staff, individuals would have to call the center, but they also need to be in the know of when would they call. And unless we get it in the paper, how does the general public know? You could put it on social media, but not everybody, especially our seniors, not everybody has access to social media. So my hope in my last communication with her was that we would have well in advance notice. They would just like they're booking their own clinics. Could you not just set aside this many vaccines for us to host a larger clinic, and then we could have a few weeks notice to get it in the paper for people to have appointments booked, to get all our people. I have to organize, make sure I can get the right number of nursing staff based on the number of appointments we're going to have. So it's that's kind of the minor details that I know as of today, and it'll unfold as they get more. We're hopeful that more vaccines become available to public health. Right now, like I said, things are being diverted, and they never know. Originally, they were told that they would be able to order, I need 1,000 vaccines because I need so many to go in this direction and so many in that direction. And they don't do that anymore. They're just sent whatever. And on the day of arrival, oh, we have this many vaccines now, let's open up more appointments. So yeah, so just looking for some space, possibly some volunteers if you can, and just support that it's going to go on and help spread the word, because I'm not sure how it's going to unfold. Happy to have any questions.
Bonnie.
Hi, Kate. Thanks for the presentation. And definitely, I think that I would want to see our council support this project, and probably the Rodney Recreation Center might make the most sense, but open for whatever might work. And, I'd be glad to volunteer too, if you need volunteers, or maybe we can look at some other service clubs that might be able to volunteer. But yeah, for sure. We definitely want to offer this to our constituents for sure.
Good to hear.
Richard?
Yes, I think it's a grand idea. And yes, you do need the room, because what I found, having had the injection already, is the waiting period after you've had the injection is at least 20 minutes. And so that's where you get the congregation of the people. So you do need a lot of room to spread those people out otherwise you can't give the injections as fast as you want to. So yes, I agree, and I think it's a grand idea.
Teresa, or Angela's got your hand up, and Teresa.
Through the chair, I think this is a great idea. I know I was speaking with Peter at the pharmacy, and he had alluded that he has a waiting list of hundreds, potentially more, that probably by now when I talked to him the other day. Do you need any special equipment or air handling equipment to be able to run this type of vaccine clinic? If we were to run it in, the arena is popping into my head because they could come in the front door and go out the back door, or where the Zamboni goes, so they're coming in one door and out another. I know that in some of the other ones, they have different types of air handling equipment. I didn't know if that was something that you needed.
So that is not mandated by public health, just especially if we're in a large arena, the community center, whatever, the airflow is a little better. If there's a possibility of leaving a door open, that's awesome, right? That's welcomed. The only thing, and I don't know if you have access to it, a large digital clock would be awesome. And I don't know if one exists in any of your buildings, but I know I went to Mount Bridges and it was so nice, because of the large volume of individuals that would potentially be there, everybody gets a sticker once they've had their vaccine about the time that they're able to leave. And with the clock on the wall, it's very clear that people know that, and then they're checking out to get their next appointment on the way out of the building. So nobody scoots out early because people will see the sticker they have. So access to something like that would be wonderful. If not, we'll figure something out just to make do. But we also, that's something a volunteer would be doing, or volunteers, just wandering through the individuals that are there and making sure, people haven't forgotten that they can go, and they've been there a half an hour longer than they needed to be. So yeah, but a clock does really help for sure.
Yeah.
Through the chair, yeah, so I'm on many wait lists myself right now, one being our local pharmacy. Looked other places because many people from our area are traveling, some of them 2 hours away, to get their vaccines. Amherstburg was an option for me at 8:30 in the morning, or going back to the hometown I grew up with, which is part of the GTA in Georgetown. I could have any option, but why would I do that? I can just wait. So yeah, I think this is a great idea. I do know that the protocols have been great when people have been having their vaccines in arenas and community centers and such. So anything you need from us, we will try to accommodate and look for that for you. I think it's a great idea to have one out here.
Wonderful. I think the only comment that I want, just so everybody's clear, what public health is giving is AstraZeneca. I know it's been a little bit of a contentious, oh, can't hear, sorry. The vaccine that we would be getting, is that better? Is AstraZeneca. And that's the only one that we'd be getting at this point. Now, if the public health allows individuals that are under 40 to get it, they may have to change and bring other vaccines or give other vaccines to us to vaccinate some of the younger individuals. But I know that sometimes it's a little concerning for individuals in the healthcare field. We feel that people have dotted their I's and crossed their T's that the risk is very low. But just so the public know that that's the only one that we're being offered.
Richard?
Yeah, just one question, because this is one thing I certainly don't know. If you've had one injection and some people opt to go to the local Rodney one, then if it takes place, has it got to, does it have to be the same, or you can't have Moderna one and then something else for the second, can you?
Correct. No, you can't.
It has to be the same.
Has to be the same.
Okay.
Yeah. And this may go on forever. So what we'd be doing too is doing the first injection, but also offering clinics to do the second injection as well. And they are talking with some of the vaccines that there may even be a booster at some time in the future. And we would want to help with that as well if public health gives it to us.
Okay, so
Angela.
you give them a follow-up information, right? Straight away. Yeah.
Yes.
Angela?
Through the chair, I know not all of our residents are able, if hypothetically we use the arena, able to travel to West Lorne. Would your I want to call it a bus, it's not a bus, your transportation be available, or is that something council needs to consider contacting our transit committee to offer transportation to the vaccine clinic if you were to do something?
Yeah, so the van or our volunteer drivers would be, I'm sure, available to help out. Public Health has put a limit. Our van, we can only have 2 people in it. So it's not really as user-friendly as we would want. Plus, we have to pay the drivers and because they're paid employees for the van. So we would need, funds to help pay them for the day. Because if we wanted, or if the municipality wanted the van to be used to help those with wheelchair accessible needs or just a ride, helping to cover the cost for the driver for the events would be helpful, because normally they get paid when the individual they're giving the ride to pays us. So that's how we get money to pay their salaries. But I'm sure, that we could certainly help on some level with that.
And so too, just so you know, we can only have 4 on our bus as well. So yeah, I mean, we won't get a lot, but
I know, I'm
depends
just
on the
wondering,
expense.
the 2 committees need to chat, because I know not all our residents drive or have access to transportation. So I'm just trying to make it as accessible as possible.
Yeah, for sure.
Any time frame on this, Kate?
So we just got all of the insurance that Public Health was asking us for. So when I'm done my next Zoom, I'm going to be sending all that off today to Public Health, so they have it with our agreement. And hopefully, so all of that will be done by tomorrow, all the signing. And then it'll be Susan working with Public Health to hopefully identify when we can get a bolus of vaccine. And then when she tells me some options, then we need to look at the availability of the space. And sorry, I have a puppy I'm babysitting today. Availability of space and availability of my nursing staff.
The only concern that I have about the arena, and certainly weigh in on this, Lee, that I certainly wouldn't want to be someone sitting in the arena, in the near future, because it takes some time before that facility warms up to a level that would be comfortable, and then there's a period of time when you go through a fair bit of sweat on the floor that would make it quite unsafe to walk on too, would it not, Lee?
Yeah, through your worship, that would be the only downside of the facility in West Lorne. Its pluses would be that it's big and it's open. There is a digital clock at the arena in West Lorne that could be utilized, as Kate mentioned, for keeping track of times. But yeah, the ambient air temperature in the facility is probably not the most comfortable in the world, but it certainly is doable if that was the route that council decided to go.
And I think it would also determine, again, getting back to that time frame, Kate, of how far down the road before this can be all pulled together, because by that time, I think possibly the conditions within the arena could improve somewhat as the weather outside warms up.
I'd suggest once we know sort of the when, we look at the where.
Right.
And then put the ad in the paper for where is most appropriate at that time.
Just throwing ideas out on the table here. One of the things when it comes to volunteers, do you know at this time how many you might need?
Probably looking at about 10.
Okay. Is it a plan that we would just hold a one-day clinic, or is it going to be a multi-day clinic? And I guess you won't know that until you find out the supply of vaccine.
based on the supply and the demand. Now with the pharmacy in West Lawrence giving vaccines, Blanco Pharmacy is supposedly going to start giving vaccines. Dutton Pharmacy is not. So there will be people, I know, like you said, Peter has approximately 400. That was as of yesterday morning on a wait list for vaccines. And I think there's probably a lot of individuals who don't even know that he's able to offer them yet. So once you advertise, if we, have 400 requests and we only have 250 vaccines, we're holding another clinic. And then, of course, we would need to hold for their second dose as well in the future. And that typically is the 112 days apart.
One of my thoughts that I've kind of kicked around in my mind was the fact when it comes to the volunteers, is there an opportunity here for us to go out into the community to our service clubs who all are struggling right now trying to raise some funds for their individual causes? Is this something that through our money that we have received from the province regarding COVID related issues that we could say to those service clubs, we will pay you X amount of dollars for every hour of volunteerism that you put forward into the community, and that way we can accomplish, I think, a very important need in our community, along with assisting some of these service clubs in their trying to survive through these difficult times. Or is it something that council would just rather rely on potential volunteers to come forward with? Any thoughts on that? Jess?
Through the chair, I know in the past with the blood donor clinics we've had different people from agencies be I call them the end of the line food people, where you get your sugar up. But I don't know what they're really called, but the helpers, where you get your little drink box and your cookie or your piece of fruit or whatever the case may be while you wait. And then the food service or the blood services people let you go. So it'd be something to approach, something to inquire if they're even interested, but it's a great idea.
I think the operative clause for we as community leaders is the more that we can induce to get needles in people's arms. I think it's imperative that we try to do everything we possibly can to make that happen within West Ogden.
Yeah.
So how do you want to leave this, Kate? Do you want us to I think certainly support your initiative in principle. As always, the devil's in the details. Is council happy with allowing Jana and Magna to work directly with Kate to try to put a package together and then bring it back to council as to how they see this is going to move forward?
Sir, just before you get too far, I believe we need to pass a resolution today to waive the fees for Kate, for her to move forward, that she knows that she has somewhere to host them.
Okay.
And then the other stuff can be dealt with elsewhere, but Kate needs definite backing from council of the facilities that she can use. So I do have a recommendation written for that, because I did talk to Kate ahead of time, so I kind of had an idea what she needed right away.
Angela, you have a question?
Yeah.
Sorry, find my unmute button. I fully support this and I'm absolutely willing to motion the recommendation. I just, do we need to consult our insurer before we approve anything like this, Magda? I see your face. No, okay.
Community Health has their own insurance and they've got that covered. And this is a public health matter, so it takes precedence over stuff like that, so.
Okay, go ahead and read the recommendation, Magda.
So West Ogden Council hereby approves the waiver of rental fees for the West Ogden Community Health Center for the use of municipal facilities as needed to provide COVID-19 vaccine clinics, and that staff in West Ogden Community Health Center work together to book facilities as needed.
Okay, it looks like it's moved by Leatham and seconded by Cammert. Should we, and would it help, Kate, if we were to add to that resolution that West Ogden Council is totally in support of this initiative?
Certainly, that would be great.
Can you-
I think I'm seeing it in the faces, but certainly putting it in writing is good.
Okay, so West Elgin Council hereby supports West Elgin Community Centers, our community health centers, offering of COVID-19 vaccines, and hereby approves the waiver of rental fees for the West Elgin Community Health Center for the use of municipal facilities as needed to provide COVID-19 vaccine clinics, and that West Elgin Community Health Center and staff work together to book the facilities as needed.
Again, we do have a little bit of issue. I guess we don't even know where this is going to be, so that's probably okay at this point in time. Is that okay with the mover and seconder?
I'm
Yes.
fine with that. I'll leave that to staff to decide.
Okay. I think it's been moved and seconded. All in favor? And that is carried.
So Kate, I'll have a resolution in writing to you probably around 4 o'clock today. Is that
Perfect.
sufficient?
Yes, absolutely. Great.
Okay,
Appreciate
so
it.
you go fishing, Kate, and find all the vaccine you can find.
Yeah, we will. So just to, I should put it out too, if we're putting this in the paper, you will have other individuals that will come that aren't just West Elgin residents. So probably coming from Dutton Dunwich or whatever. And Dutton Dunwich is also going to host, we're doing some there as well for them. So West Elgin residents would be welcome to go there if the date doesn't work for them coming to West Lawrence, so, or Rodney, wherever we end up.
And,
Okay.
and certainly, you know, I was a recipient of my vaccination in Bell River, and I was opened with open arms down there. This virus has no boundaries.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. Yeah, I know someone who's had their first vaccine. They're a nurse, very careful with everything and positive for COVID. It came through their husband's work, and yeah, it's so it does happen. So, but the more needles we can get in people's arms, even if you do get COVID, the less impact it should have on your health. Anyway, so it's a good news. So really greatly appreciate the time for everyone today, and look forward to doing COVID business with you.
Sounds great.
All righty. Take care.
Looking
Okay.
forward to the details.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay, so we also have been joined by a guest for Magda's report on health and safety. So would you mind if we move to that one?
Well, certainly.
So it is report number 9.6.2, the health and safety quarterly review. Magda?
Yeah, so, yeah, I'm gonna go first quickly,
Okay.
Mr. Mayor. So basically, the purpose of my report is to provide council with a quarterly update and progress on the work that we have done so far since the beginning of the year. And I have invited Derek Drekic for the purpose of introduction and providing council with the answers or clarifications that I have provided you in my report. So I would like to welcome Derek. Derek, would you go ahead and you can introduce yourself. Oh, you're
Derek.
Sorry about that. Good afternoon. My name is Derek Drakic, and thank you for inviting me to meet the council and to share information based on the work that we're doing in the background there. This is a really nice project for myself. There's many different facets of legislation and regulations that fall under the governance of a municipality and the protection of its employees for the numerous different tasks that you do. So I'm enjoying my time. I'm enjoying the open arms and reception I've received from everybody within the municipality so far. And I think you have a very strong set of supervisors that are keenly interested in your overall workplace safety.
Well, that's very good to hear. Does any member on council have any specific concern they might want to ask our consultant? Wow, you're getting off easy here, Derek.
I see that.
Yeah, so smiling faces. So, I think that we all recognize the importance of health and safety, and certainly want to provide the best work environment we can for our employees. So certainly, unless Magna has something more to add to it, we look forward to working with you and making this working experience as best as we can for our employees.
I think Bonnie had a question there.
Did you have a question, Bonnie?
It was just really a comment. I just wanted to say that I felt this was a really strong start to this process that we've had. You know, you've accomplished a lot in the first quarter, and you've got a long list of things to be working on. So it's a super start, I would say.
Thank you.
So anything else, Magda?
No, that's all.
Okay, well, I do have a recommendation. West Island Council hereby receive the report from CAO Treasurer Health and Safety Quarterly Review for information only. Mover and seconder for that. Moved by Talia, seconded by Rowe. All in favor? And that is carried. Thank you, Derek. You can feel free to hang around to make sure that we're zooming safely. And other than that, have a very good day.
Great. Well, I appreciate your time. Thank you very much. And I'm going to go back to work for you behind the screen again. Thank you.
Okay.
Bye
Take care. Okay, Jana, I guess you're next up on the list. It's that time again to get ready for another election.
Yep. So there's lots of craziness and unknowns about what's going to happen. So it is that time. In the last election, we did need to have a decision made by May 1st, the year preceding. This year, the province has reverted to May 1st of the year of. That doesn't give us a lot of time to plan and get stuff in line. Most municipalities are moving forward with their decision on how they want to carry the vote. I wanted to provide you guys with options. There are options too, if you want community feedback to find out. I think this is a good time to ask for it on how you want to vote. You'll see cost-wise, and I actually believe safety-wise, the best course is fully online and telephone. It is, to be honest with you, the way Middlesex County has voted the last 2 elections. While, yeah, it's hard, people grumble a bit at first, but people have gotten used to it, especially with the fact that there's tablets and they still hold the odd polling station. For advanced polls, people can go if they want help, and everybody's gotten more internet savvy. And if you had issues, there's telephone voting. You'll see we do a fair amount of online and telephone voting as it is. When you add those together, our statistics show that that's over 50% of the voters are using that. So I don't know if you had any questions, just let me know.
Therese.
I really like the idea of online or telephone voting, only because we do have a lot of people who work away from home, or we have in the past, who had trouble fitting in their voting. I know in my own household, someone had to go to St. Thomas to advance poll to vote because the advance polls here and the voting day, they weren't going to be in the country. And I get that from a lot of the long haul truckers and different people, that they find it very difficult to vote at voting time for any election.
Clerk, so without online voting as a municipal clerk, I was not able to vote in my municipal elections. Not the last 2 because Middlesex did online voting, but previous to that, I was not able to vote in municipal elections for 3 terms because I always had to work the election.
I know there's going to be resistances, but there is with everything new. I do know that some people like to actually go and, hi Fred, nice to see you're working the voting booth, and have a little chat. But in what we're dealing with right now, Lord knows what it could be like in, 18 months, I believe it is, from now. So I'm not saying 100%, but I just think it would be great to explore and think and kind of open our minds to those 2 options of the voting online and the telephone voting.
We have been doing it the past 2 elections and we have good turnout. It actually increased voting at the trailer parks because previous to that, people had to come you know, at least Trailer Park residents, this gives them more opportunity to vote. I believe Bonnie has her hand up, sir.
Yes, Bonnie?
Actually, I don't think I did for a change, but at any rate, I totally agree that option 2 to me seems to be the least cost and extremely accessible. So I would vote with option 3.
2, you mean?
Beg your pardon?
Option 2? You said 2,
Sorry,
1.
option 2, online and phone only.
Does anyone else have any other questions or comments or?
Well, I guess from my perspective is that I think we're one generation away from you know, being able to fully embrace technology. There are still I think a fair number of individuals. I think about, is it about half the people in the municipality voted
Over
paper?
half. 44% voted paper.
Exactly. So I don't know whether we can just easily discount 44% of the people that had the opportunity last year to vote online or use electronics to be able to vote. I don't know whether we can just discount all those individuals that have traditionally voted in a traditional manner. And like I say, are we there yet? I'm just not exactly sure. And if you lose 44% of the votes and you go to strictly online, are you getting a true representative vote of the people of West Elgin?
My comment to that, sir, would be if we still hold polling locations with the fact that we already have touchscreen monitors and tablets, we can walk them through that way. We did have people come in thinking they were coming to an advanced poll at the office in the last election, showed them how to do it online, and they were quite happy.
Mm-hmm.
So we could still do that. It's just not a physical piece of paper that has to be counted. I do believe we need to still, especially the first time around, like you said, we have to have polling stations. But if we can hold them with just electronic voting, help people through it that way, it's quicker, less and less contaminant, less chances for vaccines issues and things. Anyway, Councillor Cameron has her hand up.
Yes, Angela?
Is there a way to get public feedback and make the public more aware of the various costs that we are projecting to run the paper ballots?
Do a survey?
Yes, but not all of our residents are on social media. If we pushed it out on social media, so I'm trying to think of a way that
I believe we could do a survey
But
in the water bills, or
That's
when's
what
our
I
next
think.
tax bill go out, Magda?
That's my question is, and then it's on maybe on the website, but there's a notice that went with the tax bill or a water bill that, like, do we have time for that?
Yes, we do, which is why I'm coming at you guys. We
I'd
do have
like to
time.
see that before I made some kind of a decision on this, but I want public transparency on, so that they can see the exact dollars and cents on if you wanted option 1, 2, or 3, so that they are aware how much an election costs. Because I support technology, but I do agree with the mayor that I'm not sure we're there yet. But I do agree that also with the way things are going, we may not be able to do paper because everything could be touchless.
There is also the idea that the province can mandate us to a solely online election. It is some of the scuttlebutt talk. I don't know for sure it'll happen, but other clerks I've talked to, they are really worried that you may be forced into straight mail-in or straight online, like online telephone, with no option of polling stations if COVID continues. And Councillor Tellier has her hand up, sir.
Yes, Chris.
Through the chair, ballots, do we have data on how many ballots were not able to be counted? Spoiled's not the word, but
Spoiled
discarded.
ballot.
Yeah,
Yeah,
spoiled
that's called
ballots.
a
is the word.
spoiled
Okay.
ballot.
Spoiled
Oh, I don't-
ballots versus online telephone versus in paper. Like when you're online, is it guaranteed that that vote is a vote versus on paper when people have issues and not doing it exactly what it's supposed to be done?
Let me just open that up here.
And I'm sorry, my other iPad has frozen. So the costs, I have kind of written them down quickly before it froze, were 27,000 for option one.
So if we stick with way we were previous, like the last election, so that was option one, it's yeah, about 27,000. Option two is 17,750-ish. Option three, which is where we get tabulators, is 32,100.
Okay, thank you for that. I'm sorry for my
And I'm just
technical
looking at,
difficulties while we're talking about technology.
I'm just looking at my statistics here. Just give me one quick second.
And while Jenna is looking at the stats, I just want to add that paper ballot, as you know, is not cost effective. Judging from last election, we did not finish until midnight. You know, when you ask volunteers to help out with the election, this task requires a lot more training of what they have received in the past. So the cost that Jenna provided you with is based on last election numbers, but I think you would need to add a little bit more because more training is required for that part when we're running paper ballot election.
Through the chair, yeah, I've worked a election in the Toronto area and actually Little Italy in Toronto before. And I think I had 3 days of training leading up to the actual day. And I was there from open until close. And it was intensive. It was intensive for that one day. So it was worth it. Learned a lot. It was interesting, but not really transferable skills. And it was a lot of work. And the payout, they have to pay all these people as well, the municipalities. So it becomes a lot.
So we had a total of, in paper ballots, we had a total of 20 spoiled ballots. I don't know what the percentage of that would be, but yeah, we had a total of 20 spoiled ballots.
Fairly small. Okay, Bonnie?
In your discussion of option two, you still included, you know, pre-election day and as well as election day support on the tablets. And you talked about some of the congregate settings. And I think that would be, like, I'm assuming those staffing for those weren't included in that dollar figure, but I still think that it would be wise to set those 3 or 4 congregate settings that we have in our municipality into that plan so that those groups can be.
Yeah, I based that on what Southwest Middlesex did when they switched. So they actually had a staff member as part of, instead of hiring outside volunteers or people to work, they took municipal staff and they spent 2 hours at, say, Millstone Manor with an iPad and a touchscreen TV, or a large touchscreen monitor to help people vote. And they did that at Babcock. They did that way, and that's what they used municipal staff at different days. And I think they had 2 days at each place, so the residents could have the opportunity to vote. And the other option was if they ever needed, because with the iPads, they had cellular data. If somebody needed to vote, they would do home voting as well. They could call the municipal office and have a staff member go out and do that. That's the benefit of the online. I mean, we can still do that as long as we have the online and telephone as an option. They eliminated paper ballots because of the counting and how long it took to get results. Because you have to understand, when we're doing a municipal election with counting, it's very different than provincial and federal. We counted 7 races. So it was there were a lot of ballots. I helped Rodney count, and it took us 45 minutes just to empty the ballot boxes, and everything was color coded and put all the ballots in the right color because there was like that many different ballots. And once we got that, then we could count, and the counts take time, and you have to look at it. And these are humans, so it takes two people to, you have to do one person counts, then another person counts, and that all takes a lot of time, which is why, Meg, I think you were pretty generous. I know I did not leave the municipal office till 1:30 the morning of the election. By the time we got all the results sent off to the various school boards and submitted to the province for our results.
Okay, well,
would you like us?
Just so I've got my head around this thing, I know that elections come along once every 4 years.
Mhm.
I think what we have to determine is how best are we going to service the voter. I know in all the elections that I have been through, it's certainly not a favorite day of the staff people. So are we making this more convenient for staff, or are we making it more convenient for the voters? And that's, I think, the big question that we have to come to grips with.
So I'm getting, if we do a survey, Meg, did you know when did you find out when the next tax bill go out?
It's going out at the end of August. The final tax bill will be going out at the end of August.
So if we prepare a survey, I'll bring it back to council with the questions ahead of time for approval, probably for the next meeting. We prepare a paper survey, we'll have it online, but people get it in their tax bill as well, and they can return it when they make their tax payment. Is that comfortable with you? And we can provide, we won't obviously have all the results into you till probably October or November, right? That's when the first installment is due. So we'll report back.
End of September.
So end of September. So by the beginning of October, which will give us a year out to the election, we'll have an idea. We know we're going to have at least, I'm assuming you guys can want to continue with at least some part of online and telephone ballots. And as long as that's continued, I mean, I haven't signed the contract yet with IntelliVote, but I know their costs because we get bumped in with Middlesex County. And I have an idea of what the tabulators would be, but I don't have to book them right away. So if you're comfortable with that, I'll prepare a survey, bring it back to you, and you approve it, and we'll get it out in the tax bills. Is that comfortable? Mr. Mayor, are you comfortable with that?
I think it's a way forward. Certainly, I think we do need to have as best consult in the public as we possibly can. And, you know, it's who knows what COVID is going to do for us. And, you know, I think that online is going to be the way of the future. It's just depending on when people are ready for it. And I wish we had broadband up and down every road that people could readily be able to get on it. But I think that they're just taking into consideration the number of people that I have talked to that have struggled with trying to make a COVID appointment online. So I know that there are a lot of people that are actually assisting people that are very, very tech savvy, or are assisting people that aren't so much that way. So something to keep into consideration, Tress.
Just to clarify, if we go online, or we look in the option online voting from our residents, from our feedback, that's also telephone, correct? So if their online is not great in their area, their broadband's not great, they can just revert to the telephone. Or if they don't, I have a neighbor who doesn't even have Wi-Fi in their home, they just have no use for it. So they could just online vote?
Yes, that is correct. We would never
go one and the same.
Only, yeah.
Okay.
There is an option that's being shopped around that Meg and I attended a webinar on, that it's an app on your phone, but both of us were not comfortable with the idea of that because of the fact that there are too many people who don't have it. So.
Okay, is everybody comfortable with moving forward that way?
Yes.
Yep.
All right. All right, so we do have a recommendation here that West Ottawa Council hereby receives the report from Janet Nethercott clerk regarding the 2022 municipal school board election for information purposes. And that the West Ottawa Council hereby directs staff to
Develop a survey regarding voting options to be sent in the final tax bills.
Okay, mover and seconder for that. Moved by Cameron, seconded by Talia, all in favor? That is carried. Flip my page here.
So this is just a
Next item
standard,
of an engineer.
it's a pretty standard report, but
Yep.
it is form.
I'll just read this off. West Ottawa Council hereby receives the report from Janet Nethercott, clerk, RE, appointing drainage engineer for drainage works, Mackenzie Drain, and that West Ottawa Council hereby appoints Street Associates engineers to prepare a report for the relocation south branch of the Mackenzie Municipal Drain. Mover and seconder for that. Moved by Richard, seconded by Teresa. All in favor? And that is carried. Do we
Could
know
I
when?
ask a question, please?
Oh, sure.
Yeah, if I could just clarify, so the South Branch is there at the present time? And the request is to remove that branch and what, run it into the Mackenzie drain? Is that what that is, or what?
They're not, they think that could be, but they have to move it as, if he gets his severance applications approved at the county, he
Yeah.
has to relocate that drain because otherwise it makes one lot unbuildable. So it's going to be what the engineer decides where the best location is for it.
Okay, thank you.
There was a significant amount of work done on that drain not too many years ago, was there not, Jen, or do you know?
I believe if you, the reason that we have such a good map is for that. I think it was about 3 years ago, but please note that these costs, because he's relocating as part of a development application, are fully being absorbed, and he is aware of this by the applicant.
Okay.
So nobody else in the drain will be paying for this work.
That's good to know. Okay, we had a mover and seconder. Any more questions? Seeing none, all in favor? And that is carried. Finance. Magna, your local authority services agreement?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. So basically, this is nothing new. We have been a member of LAS since 2007. And basically, one of the programs that we take advantage of is the gas program, natural gas program. They have basically through that program offers us good stability of gas prices. And in the last 3 years, I looked at our rebates that we were able to receive was in, so last 3 years. So last year we received $1,200 in rebates, in 2019, $3,100, and in 2018, $2,300. So in my opinion, this program is very advantageous, has many advantages, as we don't have to worry about the market price of natural gas. And with our limited budget, you know, that it offers us stability when it comes to our finances. So fees, the company, there is a fee for this program, and basically it's they charge 12 cents per cubic meter. 12 cents per gigajoules of consumption of natural gas. That fee we don't see is included in our bill that we receive from Union Gas. And I just want to mention to you that of all of 444 municipalities in Ontario, 161 take advantage of this program. So this program is only offered to public sector bodies. And I have no issues with renewing it. Right now, the natural gas prices are low, but we don't know where we're going to be within the year or within the next few years.
Any questions for Magda on this? Seeing none, I have a recommendation of West Ogden Council hereby receives a report from the CAO Treasurer, RE, the local authority service agreement, and that West Ogden Council hereby authorizes the treasurer to execute an agreement on behalf of the municipality. Mover and seconder for that. Moved by Rowe. Seconded by Leatham. All in favor? That is carried. Okay, moving on to committee and board reports.
One question. Could I ask one question, Mr. Mayor, through the chair? I just wondered, Magda, whether we use LAS for any other group buying.
No, gas program is the only one so far, but they do offer investment options. And right, there's many different programs that they offer that we don't have a chance to take advantage. All these I think Lee knows more about it. I know.
They just sent out one about arena buying, right? Don't you use it for that too, Lee, or maybe not?
There's options that come along all the time on this. One big one that we have taken advantage of was it was an LAS program that we used for the streetlight conversion back in 2015 when we converted all 450 streetlights over to LEDs. That was an LAS program, so we have used them in the past.
Mm-hmm.
One literally just came out. They're doing a webinar on arena products in May. So that literally came out when we were in the meeting today. So
Thank you.
Okay. I have to refresh my memory. Did we vote on that recommendation? Okay. And just as a side note, I think through the county service delivery review, correct me if I'm wrong, Magna, that there's a movement afoot of trying to coordinate a more encompassing bulk buying across the county.
That's correct, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, there's going to be, I think the consulting company that has been recruited by the county will be somebody waved, sorry.
Wave bye to Bonnie's, you had to step out.
Oh, I thought you wanted to stop maybe. No, yeah, there is, they will be interviewing one-on-one with each municipality and kind of developing a plan of, where potential savings can be found.
All righty, moving on here to committee and board reports. The minutes of the Board of Management for the arena are there. If there are any questions. Okay, seeing none. Council reports from committees. Anybody have any committee they'd like to bring council up to speed on? Richard?
I'd just like to say that in future, I will make sure the Lower Thames minutes comes to the council so everybody can view them.
I used to get them, but they quit sending them to me during COVID.
I will check with that, and I'll make sure that our council gets them in future.
Okay, very good. Anybody else got anything else? Tress?
Isn't a committee report, but I've really been enjoying Brian Lima sending the updates to everybody. I assume everybody for the roads and such going on with our infrastructure in Rodney here. So I'm passing them along to the businesses that aren't right on Furnival that affect him, just because they're really their traffic flow has been affected a bit. But other than that, it's been really nice to have those reports come in from him. And I think I've already expressed that to him, but thank you for that.
Certainly, I think the progress is going along quite nicely, and so I've had a lot of good comments from people who have been watching the progress, and they're seem to be very impressed with the professionalism of Van Bree Construction.
Yep.
Any other committee reports? Seeing none, emergency control group minutes, any comments from those minutes? Okay, seeing none, next item up is accounts. I think everybody has had the opportunity to ask your questions. So I'll read the recommendation that the mayor and treasurer hereby authorized to pay a signed payment voucher number 4A amounting to $355,499.92 in settlement of road, general road and water and arena accounts. Mover and seconder for that. Moved by Cameron, seconded by Rowe. All in favor? That is carried.
You're not going to ask if she has the money?
Oh, I forgot to ask. I'm thinking of my next meeting here, so I'm rushing right along. Do we have the money yet, Meg? All right, she's thumbs up. Notice of motion. Seeing none, statements, inquiries by members. Yes, Angela.
I just have a quick one, and you don't need to answer me right now, but I had 2 different calls from 2 different residents concerned how much time goes into the notices that are sent out regarding dog tags, because they received 3 different notices in the mail. So Maggie, your face is telling it all, but I don't want an answer right now, but I would be curious to know how much time we are putting into sending out 3 different notices over dog tags. And maybe some kind of a report or something. Jana's making face too. There's some kind of report that can come back to council. Are we spending more money on staff time than we are recouping back in cost of dog tags? So
I believe Magda has already got us working on a report regarding that and what we should be doing with dog tags in the future. It's just one of those things we keep adding to the list and hasn't quite made it.
Yeah, so
But I just
an answer right now, but I've had 2 calls this week because you must have sent statements out recently, I'm thinking.
Yes, I just want to provide council with clarification. That statement that was sent out was unnecessary, as the due date for dog tags is coming up. It's coming up on April 30th. So our staff emailed statement, but the reason for it, it was out of the courtesy, just as a friendly reminder that, you know, that the dog tags are due April 30th. And so, because last year, basically, when we invoice for the dog tags, we provide our dog tag and animal owners 3-month time to pay the bill. Most of the time, a lot of people forget about the bill. And come September, we get a lot of phone calls, you know, yelling and screaming at us that where's this charge coming from? And we're basically, the purpose of that statement was to remind the dog owners that, you know, that their bill is still outstanding. And in order to avoid $50 charge added to their tax bill, you know, we basically requesting the payment in a timely manner. Some of our residents, I did receive a lot of phone calls, took it the wrong way. As you know, most of the time you don't get the statement until, you know, you're past due. The statement came out a little bit earlier and we had a lot of upset residents, but basically the purpose of that statement was just to remind our residents. It was just a friendly reminder. It was the intent wasn't, to get angry with them for not paying the bills in a timely manner. So that's the clarification that I have.
They were mailed. The two people that called me said they were mailed. So they had 3 different things mailed to them separate from their tax bill. So I guess I'm questioning is how many other people had things mailed times 3. I know when I then went digging through our stuff, we had 2 different things mailed to us as well. So that makes 3 households. So again, I'm concerned, are we spending an exorbitant amount of money for a $50 dog tag? The cost versus the reward isn't worth it in my head if I'm doing some quick numbers just off the top of my head. So I think that we need to look at that as a whole and analyze, what I just said is this worth it? Or are we spending way more time than we're getting back for a dog tag?
Yes, we do, but it's, come September, we will be getting a lot of phone calls too and dealing with the residents that did not pay. I mean, the issue has been rectified. It's not going to happen again. We certainly, we do have options how to deal with dog tags. And I think come, summer, late, early fall, we're going to bring the report to council for, in terms of changes to how we handle dog tags.
Okay. I think that's all we can ask of staff right now is and I think they're well aware of how the system is set up now, and hopefully, giving Magna some time, that she'll come back with a report that will give us a way forward. Okay, any more, where were we at? Statements, inquiries by members? Seeing none, I guess we've dealt with the matter, one matter of urgency. Is there any other ones that anyone has? Seeing none, correspondence, Elgin County Council highlights. Any questions from that? Seeing none, notice of issuance of cannabis license. Bonnie?
Just to clarify, I think it's an approval for both medical sale of cannabis to producers for both medical and recreational. Is that what staff got from it?
That's my understanding. I mean, Health Canada just tells me he has to send us a letter. And so, yeah, that's what I understand from it. We got the same letter at the end of last year when the license was first approved, and then he'll have to send it every single year.
So is this the first production facility that we've gotten these letters from?
Yes.
So this was one of the issues that we were discussing in previous council meetings, that we really never got any notification, and all of a sudden people in the community tell us that there's cannabis being produced. So I guess we don't have any grandfather clause to this to.
No, he's the only one that seems to be really following.
And it's really nice to receive it too.
And so we always, I usually, because I get them and then we notify them and thank them for submitting, because he's the only one that has.
Okay.
But it's Health Canada's call that says they're supposed to notify us if they don't.
There's no repercussions.
Certainly, I think that if we can take a learning experience away from the facility up in Vanessa, or where is that in Huron County, that it's kind of
Barnstra.
Yeah, a production facility in a residential area is not going over very well. So So we need to stay on top of that. Next item, news release stay-at-home order enforcement. Guess we've kind of been all over the map on that a little bit. I was seeing this morning where the premier's apologizing for overreacting, I guess, but it is what it is. Any questions on that? The next one, Township of Archipelago Road Management on Invasive Phragmites. I think that Elgin and certainly West Elgin is down the road quite a little ways on that with their programs that they've already began. Bonnie?
Yeah, I think, yeah, I would certainly consider supporting this resolution. My questions, well, we'd have to edit it to sort of outline what it is that we've done here for sure. I wondered whether we had the clean equipment protocol wording in our tenders. And also I wondered about, you know, supporting this resolution and adding the 401 corridor in the roads and highways paragraph, because that seems to be quite a bit of consideration for us in this areas. Those areas along the 401, I know they've been doing some work, but I'm wondering whether we can reinforce the need for that in a support resolution. Maybe Lee could advise us as whether that clean equipment protocol is used in our RFPs.
Not so much in, we really wouldn't have RFPs through roadworks, I think. I can follow up and find out if they have that on municipal drain style work. That would be where it would probably be most prevalent. Certain areas we have made mention of that in the past when we did ditching along Queens Line in and around the Lusty area there. That was one of, I know that municipal drain clean out, that was one of the conditions on that contract. So I know it maybe is not a general provision in all RFPs, but I'm certainly the areas where we feel that it's an issue that would be part of the agreement.
Councillor Rowe, would you like me to maybe play with it a little bit and bring it back to the next meeting where you can endorse it?
Yeah, that I would support that. The things that I would edit would be what we have already done in terms of Phragmites control, the use of the clean equipment protocol where appropriate, and give examples, talk about the 401 corridor. And I don't know, I would, my gut feeling is to remove the part that talks about considering of funding. I think I mean, it's always good, but I wouldn't see that as a priority in the resolution.
Okay, I will develop something and maybe send it to you to look at before we put it on the next agenda.
Thank you.
Just a question for you, Bonnie, in your work with Phragmites, has the province ever recognized the Phragmites as a noxious weed or invasive species officially? Or I see that they have added some new invasive species to the provincial list, but I didn't see anything about Phragmites yet. So can you recall anything about where the province stands on it?
I think it's established as an invasive species, and I think that's actually addressed in this resolution somewhere, as I recall, but I believe it's an invasive species, but don't know about noxious weed. Lee, am I correct there?
I think in conversations with the weed inspector that it hasn't been elevated to that level where.
We just did the notice in the paper, and I just double checked. Phragmites is not on the list of noxious weeds for the homeowner notice.
So that doesn't give our local weed inspector a opportunity to give notice to destroy.
Correct. So would you like maybe that added, asking it be added to the noxious weeds?
That's where I was going with this whole thing. Is that something that we should be considering adding or requesting, Bonnie?
I'd need to really do a little bit more research on that, and I can certainly work with Jana on that. before the next meeting to come up with something along that line.
Okay. Everybody happy with that?
Yep.
Okay, good. We're at bylaws. Okay, Madam Clerk, I'm going to turn this over to you and you roll through.
Okay, so bylaw 2021-27, amend hiring of employees procedure.
waving her hand.
Yep. Magda, you're on mute.
Sorry, Jenna, before we move on to the bylaws, I just want to let council know that our FCM grant funding that we have applied back in March of last year, we've, due to COVID and delays with asset management, I was able to get in touch with our FCM rep, and this week I received notification they granted us extension by 6 months to complete asset management portion. So our deadline to complete it is now March 9th of 2022.
Number, yeah, sign in.
Sorry, Jenna, go ahead. Now you
Okay.
can- bylaws.
So that bylaw 2021-27 being a bylaw to repeal and replace policies with respect to hiring of employees procedure HR 3.1 and repeal HR 3.1 part-time employees. Be read a first, second, and third and final time.
Mover and seconder.
Bonnie. And
Okay,
Teresa.
Bonnie and Teresa. All in favor? That is carried.
So that
That's
bylaw
right.
2021-28 being a bylaw to require consultation prior to submission of planning applications and delegation of authority for completeness of planning applications be read a first, second, and third and final time.
Mover and seconder for that bylaw. Moved by Cameron. Seconded by Leatham. All in favor? That is carried.
So that bylaw 2021-29 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the regular meeting of council held on April 22nd, 2021 be read a first, second, and third and final time.
Mover by Rowe, seconded by Cameron. All in favor? Also carried.
So that the meeting of the council of the municipality of West Elgin hereby adjourn at 1:17 p.m. to meet again at 9:30 a.m. on May 13th, 2021, or the call of the chair.
Mover and seconder. Taille and Leatham. All in favor? Carried. Thank you very much.
Sir, if you're in the office, all the bylaws and minutes are in Meg's office to be signed.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Have a